Welcome to Popyak. It's time to talk about A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and this is the last episode of the season called The Morrow, which reminds me of an episode of Adventure Time. At the beginning of this one, they say, hey, you know what, last episode was rough, so let's start you off with some levity. And we get Lionel being Lionel. Come be roommates with me in the Stormlands. It'll be the coolest. You're awesome. I just want to hang out with you. You're so awesome. And I'm not being subtle about my intentions. Dunk just is like, nah, I'm bad luck. Dunk is really depressed about what happened and how he feels like it's his fault that Makor died. And honestly, it's Arian's fault. Let's not get it twisted. You didn't do anything wrong. And also, maybe you don't swing a mace so hard at your brother's head. I understand it's a fracas, things are happening. You don't know what's going on. People around you are trying to kill you. I doubt that Makor was trying to kill his brother. You hit homie really hard with that mace or that flail. We hear it from the horse's mouth, or the dragon's mouth, I guess, where he says that his brother's strong. Maybe he doesn't know his own strength. Because he certainly doesn't look as strong as he is. Like, we haven't seen him outside of his ornate little outfit, but I'm sure he's jacked as hell under there. They have to be able to wield weapons that are really, really heavy. Run around in mail. They have to run less than most because they get to ride the pretty little horses, but these guys are here at the tournament doing tournament shit. They're here to show off to the normal folk. Trot around like peacocks showing off their wealth and their power. Which is probably why Ariane was so ready to go on and do something stupid at this birthday party, which that poor girl, I'm glad that her arc concluded where she came out to Dunk at the end and said, hey, you know what, you got the raw end of the deal, and this ain't your fault. It's not your fault my quinceañera was ruined. And that she's gained some respect for Dunk, because at the beginning, she just was making fun of him for being stupid, like everybody else in that episode. I would love an arc in the future where Egg teaches Dunk to read. That sounds really adorable. Sucks that we never got to see Dunk fight in the tournament proper, because he was too messed up from this fight. He had a crutch, his eye was screwed up. The Maester was saying that he ain't gonna make it, and Dunk looked pretty fine at the end, so when Lionel said that you're fine, you'll be fine. At first I just thought that Lionel was trying to keep up Dunk's spirits. The longer the episode went on, it was like, oh no, he is okay, for some reason. I'm sure the Maester treated his wounds, but he was hobbling around, but he looks a lot better towards the end. It seems to be the Maester that lived there in that particular keep. He's not like a Maester that lives in Old Town or anything. He's not living in a very prestigious place. He's just here in this place. He doesn't have to be the best Maester. I bet this is where they send the ones that don't do the best on their tests. They barely pass. They get a 65 on the test, and they're like, alright, you can go to Ashford, fuck it. Ashford needs a Maester. You don't gotta be amazing at it. You just gotta make sure people don't die. But I think you get links on your chain based on, things you've done. And this guy had a pretty decent chain. It would have been really funny if he had the tightest chain imaginable. It was practically a choker. But Dunk is fine. He feels like, fuck this. Fuck royalty, all this knight stuff. I'm meant to be wandering. I'm not meant to be a pet, essentially. I have to go and make my bread the way that Arlen did. Which honestly isn't the best idea, but it's what Dunk knows. He definitely does know that he doesn't like this whole bowing to princes and formal nonsense, and he wants to be free. He wants to sleep under the hedges instead of being in a gilded cage, I guess. So I understand his issues, and I also understand at the end where he tells Makor straight up, listen, your other sons, they're not the best. They kind of suck ass. And in order for this one to not suck ass, he maybe needs to go see the world a little bit. And this is something I think that all of the kings should kind of be forced to do. You'll understand your kingdom better when you've walked through it. He can go undercover, like what Egg is doing. You can dye your hair. We've seen a guy with a yellow mustache. By the way, I love his funeral. They put the queen in his coffin and all the bees were swarming around. It was so perfect. It was the perfect Beesbury funeral. It made me laugh so much. And I think that this kind of thing is George taking the piss out of himself. I love Duncan Egg. It's funny, even though it's also heart-wrenching. But I'm glad it leans more on the funny side. I think definitely Game of Thrones probably needed some of this levity, because some of those episodes got really heavy, and it was just heavy for an hour. And here we have these shorter episodes where you don't have filler. Things get accomplished. Things happen quickly. Half an hour, we're in, we're out. The pacing is fantastic. It was only 6 episodes. It didn't overstay its welcome. Sometimes that's just how you got to do it. Sometimes you got to hit them with that guerrilla warfare type show creation. And I think this is one of those shows where they have to film the show constantly, right? Because you don't want Egg to get too old too fast and, age out of the role, which is something I'm worried about with Narnia. There's a new Narnia movie happening, and I'm a big fan of Narnia. Knowing how old the kids were from the first, they can play the future kings and queens at this point. And maybe that's what they were waiting for. Caspian was a little lame, but The Magician's Nephew was such an epic story that explains all of Narnia Please do not fuck it up, please. Oh my god. But back to Dunk kind of waffles throughout the episode of having Egg be his squire. Because he's just like, getting involved with princes just brought him trouble. And it's going to bring him some more because Egg decided to lie to Dunk about, oh yeah, my dad let me come with you. Because he was dropping them eaves. Oh yeah, my dad totally said that I can come with you, do that thing that you said that you wanted. No, not true. Makor was just going to hit the road and be like, I am done with this. Arion is going to the Free Cities because of two reasons. Because he needs to learn his fucking lesson, A. B, he's probably going to get executed by Dad if I take him back to King's Landing for killing his favorite son. He's just going to hang out in the Free Cities for a little bit. Pretend that he's not himself, maybe. I'm not sure if he comes back to the 7 Kingdoms or the 9 Kingdoms, according to Egg. It's more or less like 7 Kingdoms proper that they conquered originally. It's just kind of a thing that they do, even though it's not quite correct. It's like the Sears Tower. Nobody's going to call that the Willis Tower. That's dumb. That's stupid. It's the Sears Tower. Does Sears even still exist? Let me know somewhere on the internet. My socials are down in the description. Dunk spends some time with his Apple friend, who is taking home the pretty lady that he picked up here at the tournament because he knocked her up, or he thinks she knocked her up. I think she's lying because she's like, look, if I'm getting something out of coming out here and dealing with all this shit. And what a great start Apple Boy gets. Young Fossaway gets a wife and a child and a horse, a fantastic horse. I'm glad that Dunk gave the horse to somebody who would care about her. And oh my god, an apple orchard. She loves apples. Dunk essentially sent his dog to live upstate. He literally did it. And upstate is, the dog gets to live upstate on a bacon farm. So I'm so glad Dunk got to give his horse a happy ending, and in doing so, ended his story with Arlen. The student has become the teacher. We do get to see that he was not knighted. And even that scene is hilarious, where Dunk starts crying because he thinks his mentor is dead, and he kind of is, but because I think him coming back and finishing that story was a death rattle. But I love Dunk pretending not to cry and being really strong, and I'm a man. I would love to see Egg change him for the better. And I would love to see Dunk become a lord at some point. At least when he gets old, so he doesn't have to go out like Arlen went out. There's a scene where Egg tries to murder his brother in his sleep while he's trying to heal. His father, doesn't say anything. He just walks over and he comforts his son. He tells him not to. It's a very sad scene, but a very warm scene between Makar and Aegon, because I'm sure this is probably the closest that they've ever been. I think that Makor is learning that he needs to treat his sons differently. I think he's starting to understand that, hey, I can't be the brutal asshole dictator to my kids because, Arion did not turn out well. Makor and Arion and Dunk all have this on their shoulders. It's the most unforgettable Ashford tourney ever. I would love to know if they continue doing them, or if this is the last one where they're just like, yo, fuck this, let's just stop it. And I wonder if kings still go to it. I'm sure Robert Baratheon would definitely want to, but he'd probably be told, hey, you're too drunk, sit down. We don't know where the breastplate stretcher is, sir. But I would love to know more about that. I loved also the closure that Dunk got by taking Arlen's penny out of the sword and putting it in the tree. And in Ashford, where he started his knight journey, and he's retiring his mentors. It's a really nice sentiment. And now next time, if Dunk ever comes back, he can come back and see that coin, or his kids, if he has kids, can come back. And it just made my heart all warm and fuzzy that there's a memento that can be found there, probably still in Game of Thrones. We do see the penny tree in Game of Thrones, or I think at least in the book, Jaime sees the penny tree. You also see how you get the penny into the tree. A sword pommel makes a great hammer sometimes. It's just not very easy to hold. I wouldn't build a house with the sword. I could see Dunk doing it though. He's gonna do what he learned out there in the wilderness. But because he survived out there in the shit for as long as he has, I'm sure he can actually build a pretty mean lean-to. But yeah, Egg goes and tries to kill his brother. It looked like, Makor, I think at that moment understood that things needed to change. Egg's hair is also growing back. He's wearing a little cute little hat that made him look like a cupcake. He's gonna have to keep it shorn pretty close to the skin because you don't want to be a Targaryen out there. Also, I feel so bad for Prince Baelor's son. Egg wants to go to Dorne. I'm actually really hyped to see that because we don't spend much time in Dorne. We do in Game of Thrones, but it is so, dull. This show could probably do a better job of representing the place, especially if there's a whole season where they hang out and travel there and get to know the people and stuff. I just think that we were kind of slap jammed into Dorne. For some reason, they made that place boring. Also, I love that one of the rules is that Dunk gives to Egg is that, hey, you get to keep Chestnut, but do not touch Thunder. Thunder is my horse. He's really cool and he's a dope war horse. You ride Chestnut. Chestnut's fine. Because I do believe that Thunder is the horse that Arlen rode. And again, I think this is his way of becoming the master. And like traveling with Egg probably is the first time he's felt that way in his entire life. That he has his own destiny in the palm of his hand. And also, you're responsible for somebody else's. I think that this is going to be really good for the both of them. Not very good for Makor, but I'm sure Egg will mail him a letter. Or we'll get hilarious vignettes of him and the drunk brother chasing them across the Seven Kingdoms and getting into shenanigans, because that would also be hilarious. It'll be like The Simple Life, that show with Paris Hilton. I love that the title frame changed at the end. That was great. That was a great gag. Desperate for more of it. Sad that it's probably going to be like 3 years until we get it. I hope they are filming these concurrently though, unless they're like jumping in the timeline or getting a new Egg. But I think this Egg is such a great actor. But I mean, at that point, he'll probably be really big in Hollywood. So I hope this kid gets more opportunities because he's fantastic at acting right now. I know Dunk is going to get opportunities out the ass because he's fantastic. Same thing with most of the people on the show. I think this show will spin off tons of careers. The guy playing Lionel is going to he is made in the shade for the rest of his life. And oh man, the amount of fan art I'm going to see probably of Aerion Targaryen is going to be outrageous. I'm sure that guy has a bright future ahead of him as well. Be the master of your own destiny. I love you.